I'm Erik Morgansen. This is my shot breakdown. In this video I'm going to talk about taking reference from a live-action human performer and applying it to a stylized animal character. In this case, the human performer is the great actor Bill Nighy, and the stylized animal is that of Rattlesnake Jake from the movie Rango. I'll let the shot play through here.
About how you killed all them Jenkins brothers with one bullet, wasn't it? Isn't that right? All these good folks here believe your little story.
Now that we looked at the finished version of the animated shot, let's talk about the process that I used to get there. First, I'm going to take a look at the on-set reference from the vocal performance for this shot. I'll let this play through a couple of times.
I hear you've been telling all about how you killed them Jenkins brothers with one bullet, wasn't it? Isn't that right? I hear you've been telling all about how you killed them Jenkins brothers with one bullet, wasn't it? Isn't that right?
One thing I should point out that makes this reference different than what you typically get from a movie set is that the director here, Gore Verbinski, he shot this film as though he was shooting a live-action film. So when we have the vocal performance recorded here, it's in a set with cameras and all of the actors assembled together. So all these people in the background, these are the characters that are going to appear in the final scene. And so what that gives us is that allows our actors to, instead of just being in isolation in a sound booth during this recording, which is what we usually get, they now have other actors to play off of, and they can change their attitudes and the volume of their voice, their focus, and their gaze based on what's going on around them. And they can react in a real-world way rather than just using their imagination. So now let's take a look and see what Bill did in this performance. We can break this performance into two pieces, essentially. He's got this part at the beginning where he's focused directly on Johnny Depp, and I realize it's a little bit difficult to see with all the chaotic stuff going on in the scene, but we catch most of it here. He's very still and focused, and then up to this point, same thing. He's just here with his gaze directed, and then once we get to the middle of the shot, he changes his attitude a little bit. It's difficult to see because of this camera move, but he shifts his weight forward with his hip and around this way, and stands up a little bit taller here, like this, and then he goes into this sort of feinted act of being impressed by some antics that Johnny Depp was up to as the Rango character earlier in the movie. And he's got this snaky kind of thing that he does with his spine here. We can see where he puts this twist in and coordinates it with the words in this kind of like swaggery way, as he says, with one bullet, wasn't it? And we can see there's some twist in the spine and some shake in the head where he's twisting it from side to side. And then after that, he goes into this laugh where he brightens up a bit and he sinks backwards a little bit, and then he gets serious. He pops his eyes open here, and he's kind of directing this question at Johnny Depp's Rango character. Isn't that right? So he's digging into him a little bit and then pushing in a little bit closer. Those are the things I can look at to make sure that the attitudes and the accents all work properly. So now what I'm going to look for is some places where I can take his behavior and kind of link it to what a snake would do. So I know this little swaggery thing he's doing here, I can use that to put some twist in the coils of the snake there. And this head shake thing he does here on one bullet, like that, I feel like that's something I've observed snakes do, but I'm going to try and find some reference to reinforce that. And then on this laugh, he's got sort of a hiss there. I feel like I can use something with the teeth or the tongue, something like that there. And then the way that he's moving his chin up and down and doing these little short jabs with his chin, I feel like there's something about a snake striking or doing some kind of like anticipation to a strike that might coordinate nicely with that. So I'm going to look for those sorts of things. So now from Bill's physical and vocal performance, I've got his major attitudes and accents in the scene. I have his engagement with the other characters in the scene, and I've got some ideas of how I can take his acting choices and find some naturalistic snake behavior that will apply nicely to those, and I can coordinate them together. So the next thing I want to do is look for that reference of snake behavior. Okay, let's start with this. So I noticed here when this snake is striking, there's this interesting thing that happens where the jaw, it's easier to see with the jaw, but the head is rocking side to side like this. We can see the head rotates over this way here, and back over this way here, and it starts with this anticipation where it rolls over this way. And it's got this kind of meandering movement like this, even though it's striking in a line like that. So I feel like this is the kind of thing I can use with some of the head accents that I'm going to put on my character, and it's some of the things that I'm seeing in Bill Nighy's performance, so I can link those two things together, and it's going to be helpful to me. So another thing that's happening here that is a really typical snake kind of characteristic in their movement is that the head stays very still because they're tracking some prey or some threat, but the body is moving around. So I want to do this kind of thing where the head is still and the coils are moving. We can see that all throughout this section here. The head is very still and the coils are moving behind it. It gives it this kind of ominous feel. There's also this moment here as an anticipation. You can see the head does a little rocking side to side through here just before it strikes. It's very subtle. There's another interesting thing here that I can use, and it's this phenomenon of a snake turning its head to see. A rattlesnake can actually move its eye horizontally, but it doesn't typically do this to track objects that are moving. So in a case like this, you can see the snake has turned its head this way to get a better view through one eye. This looks threatening and looks kind of interesting, and it looks like snake behavior because a lot of snakes do this. So we can see it's looking out this side, and then when it comes back, it's looking out the other side. So I feel like this is another thing that I can use in my poses of my character to get a snake-like appearance. Once I have all the reference footage that I think I need, I'm going to go listen to the audio track again in a really detailed way, and make myself a quick timing sheet with some notations on it, and I'll show you how I do that here. I've got the phonetic breakdown of my line. So this first part is, I hear you been tellin'. So it goes up to this point. So I hear you been tellin', like that. I've typically draw the letter forms a little bit larger if there's an accent like this. And then I'm putting in the frame numbers here for each of these sounds. This is going to be the frame before we hear the sound. So this is the frame where we want to see that mouth shape. I'll bracket things off if there's something in particular I want to keep track of, like I want a specific shape for this N or this LTH. I might have the tongue stick out here, maybe the jaw juts forward for this J. I'll put other notations here, like I want to sustain this S sound here. I'm going to open the jaw there a little bit. In this case here, I've got a breathing in moment, and then the teeth are coming out here, and then another breathing in moment at the end. So now that I got my timing locked down, I'm going to make myself a set of thumbnail drawings. And this is the place where I'm going to blend the performance from Bill Nighy with the live action snake reference. And it's a good place to do that because I can experiment, and if I make a mistake or my drawing's a little bit of off model or whatever it is, I can throw it away and just make a new one. So I'll show what I came up with in the form of an animatic here. Here's a look at my thumbnail drawings for this shot. So in the same way as Bill's performance is broken into, I've kind of broken these thumbnails into two. So I've got the first part of it where the head is more still and it's more direct and confrontational. I've exaggerated the drawings a little bit here, and I'll describe in a minute why I've done that. But once I get to this part here where he says Jenkins Brothers, I'm doing this head shake side to side as a transition from that first part where he's more still into this next part where he says, with one bullet, wasn't it? And he's pretending to be impressed, but it's really just to be sarcastic. And so then he does this laugh, and then he does this confrontational moment here where he backs up and then pushes in. Isn't that right? And he gets more in Rango's personal space there. There's another part of this shot that we're not seeing in Bill's reference where he speaks to the other people in the crowd, and he says, all these people here believe in you, but you're actually kind of a fake. So when I let this play through, you'll see how exaggerated some of these drawings are. And the reason I do that is that oftentimes I find it difficult to get subtle actions to read properly in my thumbnail drawings. So I'll just do them more broadly and then leave a note for myself that says you should tone this down when you actually block this in on the character. So I'll let this play now.
I hear you've been telling about how you killed all them Jenkins brothers with one bullet, wasn't it? Isn't that right? All these good folks here believe your little stories, don't.
At this point, I have everything that I need to begin animating my shot. I've got my reference from Bill Nighy broken down, I've got my naturalistic snake behavior, and then I've got my thumbnail planning that blends those two things together. So now I'm ready to go. I have all my information. I can go from blocking to a nice finished refined shot. That's my shot breakdown. Thanks for watching.